The Midnight Passenger, the haunted railway track. Have you ever sat inside a train at night and suddenly felt like you weren't alone? Like someone was watching you from the darkness between the seats? In the northern part of England, there's an abandoned railway track locals refuse to go near after midnight. Because, according to old stories, every December, during the coldest nights of the year, a train appears that doesn't exist on any schedule. People call it the Ghost Express, and those who accidentally board it are never the same again. This is the story of Daniel Carter, a man who once stepped onto the wrong train. It was December 18th. Freezing cold, heavy fog covered the empty station. Daniel had missed his last train home. The station was almost abandoned. No workers, no passengers, only the sound of wind moving through the tracks. Daniel checked his phone. 2:03 a.m. Then suddenly, he heard it. A train whistle, long, deep, echoing through the fog. Slowly, an old steam train emerged from the darkness. The metal looked ancient. Rust covered the sides, and yet there were no lights inside. Daniel frowned. This train wasn't on the schedule. But exhausted and desperate to get home, he stepped aboard anyway. The doors shut behind him instantly. Inside, the train was completely silent. Too silent. No engine noise, no rattling tracks, nothing. The compartment was empty, except for one old man sitting in the corner, his face hidden behind an old newspaper. Daniel sat across from him. The train suddenly began moving. Fast, very fast, but somehow, without making a sound. Daniel looked outside the window. Nothing but darkness. No towns, no lights, no stations, just endless black fog. A strange feeling crawled through his chest. Finally, he asked, "Excuse me, when does the next stop come?" The old man didn't answer. A few seconds passed. Then, slowly, the newspaper lowered. Daniel froze instantly. The man's face was burned beyond recognition. No skin, no eyes, only blackened bone and melted flesh. And then, the thing smiled. "This train," it whispered, "doesn't stop." Daniel's heart started pounding. The creature leaned closer. "It only carries the burned." Suddenly, the lights inside the train flickered red. And Daniel noticed something horrifying. The seats around him weren't empty anymore. People were sitting there now. Dozens of them, silent passengers. Their bodies charred black, skin hanging from their faces. Some stared at him. Some still smoldered, as if they were burning from the inside. And all of them smelled like smoke and ash. Daniel stood up immediately. "What the hell is this?" Nobody answered. Then suddenly, he saw fire outside the windows. Huge flames racing beside the train. The screams started next. Faint at first, then louder. Hundreds of people screaming in agony. Daniel suddenly remembered something he once read online. 40 years ago, a passenger train had caught fire on these exact tracks. Nobody survived. The victims burned alive inside the compartments. And now, he was riding with them. Daniel ran toward the train door and pulled the handle. Locked. He pulled harder. Nothing. Outside wasn't a railway anymore. Only darkness and endless fire. The old man slowly stood up behind him. Bones cracking. "You shouldn't have boarded this train." Daniel backed away in terror. Then suddenly, the lights exploded. Darkness swallowed the compartment, and all around him, he heard whispering. Cold hands grabbed his arms, his clothes, his face, burned voices crying for help. Daniel screamed, and then everything went black. The next morning, railway workers found him unconscious on a station bench nearly 10 miles away. His clothes were covered in ash, and his hair had turned completely white overnight. Daniel never traveled by train again. But years later, he admitted one final thing before his death. Sometimes, late at night, he still hears a train whistle outside his window. And whenever he looks into the darkness, he sees passengers staring back at him, waiting for him to return. So if you're ever alone at a station after midnight, and an old train suddenly arrives through the fog, don't get on, because some trains were never meant to reach their final stop. Subscribe to Grave Junction for more terrifying horror stories. And tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced something strange during a late-night journey?